Okay, I'm gonna ignore that. I was gonna ignore it anyway, but thanks for telling me to. Okay.
Welcome, Mr. Adam Szymkowicz. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
We really appreciate you being coming and sitting down with us.
Absolutely.
I am so excited to have you here. We have a ton of members who have been working on your plays over the years, who love your plays over the years. So they've been very excited when they found out that you were coming on the show.
That's great.
So yeah, thanks, man. Well, I just wanted to start maybe at the very beginning. Where did you grow up? Are you from New York or?
No, I'm from Connecticut. I'm from a small town called Colchester in Connecticut.
Nice.
Kind of out in the middle of nowhere a little bit. Like it's, I think there were like 13,000 people growing up. Like it's a small town. There were like 88 people in my graduating class in high school.
Holy cow.
So, yeah. So like a lot of us, a lot of them, I knew them since kindergarten.
Yeah.
Because it was just like, the same.
Same school? So was the school from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade?
Pretty much. I mean,
nice.
like different schools, but like all the same kids.
Oh,
so,
nice.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And are you still out in Connecticut? Is there still
yeah, so we moved back like about 10 years ago, and I live in my late grandmother's house. Not in the same, nearby, but not like exactly the same.
Nice.
But my parents are like 15 minutes away or something, so it's kind of amazing.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And how did playwriting start for you? Did you was it something that you always wanted to do? Or did you kind of fall into it by happenstance?
Yeah, no, I was in a lot of plays, like starting in kindergarten, like I was in plays. Yeah, like
nice.
I was just in plays, but also a lot of my teachers would write plays, and so it was a thing that you could just do. And I really loved acting, but I knew it wasn't the thing. It wasn't my thing. Partially because I just eventually it stopped being fun. I got stage fright and was just like, I don't like this anymore. But I really loved theater, and so when I was in college, I think the summer after my sophomore year, I decided I would write a play that summer, and then I did it again the next summer, and then I took a playwriting class, and then I sort of haven't stopped writing plays since then.
Which college were you at when that happened?
I went to UMass, North Dartmouth.
Oh, nice. And what were you taking at school?
I mean, I originally went there because I thought I was going to study engineering.
Oh, okay.
But it became pretty clear that that's not what I was going to do. And so I was an English major, and so it was also a very it's also a very small school, it's, but I mean much bigger than my high school, but a very small college, which I think was helpful to me to be at a small high school and then a small college, just before coming to New York and being oh,
yeah. And so what made you want to write a play, the very first play that you wrote? Did you see a play somewhere? What kind of what inspired?
Oh, I mean, I love theater, and I had just been in a lot of plays, and I would read plays, and I mean, I guess not a lot of people do that who aren't theater people, but I guess I was theater people. So yeah, I was. So I was just oh, I think I'm gonna write, and it just came out much easier in dialogue than I mean, I took a short story writing class too, but playwriting seemed a lot easier and just more naturally, and the flow was there in a way that it wasn't for fiction.
Do you remember what the first play was about?
Yes, the very first play, and we'll talk about this later, but the very first play was very much influenced by The Marriage of Bette and Boo by Krista Rang, and by Night Mother by Marsha Norman. Both of them were later my teachers.
Wow.
But yeah, it was a comedy about suicide.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah.
And so after you discovered your love for writing and you're in college as an English major or also engineering, you wanted to go and do. So what happens next? Did you drop out of school and then go to? Because I know you went to Juilliard, right?
Well, so I graduated from undergrad and tried to get into grad school, and I think it took me I only applied to NYU because I was like, well, I want to go to New York. And at the time, I didn't even know there were any other schools in New York. You know, this was like early internet. So like information was not super readily available. But eventually I got into Columbia, I think like, so let's see, I graduated in 99 and I get into Columbia the fall of 2001. You know, like we were in class for 2 days and then September 11th happened. Yeah, no, it was really intense.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was at Columbia for 3 years, and then a couple of years later, I got into Juilliard. And Juilliard's like a lot of the people at Juilliard have already gone to grad school, and some of them haven't gone to undergrad. Like it's just like it's not a degree program. It's called a Playwrights diploma.
Oh, okay. And what's well, I know that the actors program is like a rigorous audition process. Is there any sort of process like that to get into that program?
For the playwriting program, basically, I think the main thing is they just have to really like your play.
Oh, you submit one play? Is that what it is? Oh,
yeah,
nice.
Yeah, and your like resume, and then you know, if they like you, then you have an interview probably. And my interview was really easy for that. It was. And then I had applied several times before I got in. I think I had applied the same year that I applied to Columbia, and also like at least a couple more times. But I finally got in 2005, and I left Columbia in, I don't know, 2003, 2001, 2002, 2002.
So you were at Columbia
2004.
First,
so it was only like a year. Somehow, that doesn't make any sense. But anyway.
Yeah, so you went from Columbia to Juilliard, or the other way around?
Yeah, there was like at least a year gap.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool. And so now you're at Juilliard, right? You're at this incredible school.
Yeah.
And two of your heroes,
two of my heroes are teaching me.
And what was that like being in class with Christopher Durang, let's say?
It was not like I thought it would be. I mean, they're both amazing teachers, but Chris Durang is very soft-spoken, and if you read his plays, that's not what. When you meet the person who wrote the play, it's like it's a very different experience of like, oh, this is the person who wrote these like amazing, outrageous, bonkers jokes in this play.
That's so funny.
Yeah, no, it's not at all like I thought it would be. I mean, he would suddenly say something very soft-spoken that was like the most hilarious thing you've ever heard, but like also like, you know, he in general had a very calm, quiet presence.
Calm demeanor. And Marcia Norman, what was that like?
Kind of the opposite of that.
Opposite?
I mean, not exactly opposite, but Marcia has a lot of energy. Also very funny. Very funny. Which you would not know from reading Night Mother, for example. Yeah.
And what were the classes that they were? Were there specific? What's a curriculum like?
I mean, it's basically a super fancy writing group.
Oh, okay.
And so, someone would bring in a play, we'd read it out loud, and then the two of them would talk about it.
So they were together in a class teaching?
Oh yeah.
Oh my!
It's still that way now. It's David Lindsay Bear and Tanya Barfield.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it's really cool.
That's really amazing.
And it's a free program.
That blows my mind. That's insane.
Yeah.
Wow.
For playwrights, it's a free program. It's not a free program for actors.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of, assistance.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, I remember because we were doing like the list, and Juilliard does have a lot of assistance for the actors too. Yeah. That's amazing. Okay, so you leave. Did any of your published plays, any of that come out of that? Any of the plays that you published ever come out from that class?
Well, Nerve was my was the play that I wrote, my thesis play at Columbia. So the last play I wrote at Columbia. Food for Fish was the first play I brought into Juilliard. Pretty Theft is the play that got me into Juilliard. And then I think mostly of what I wrote at Juilliard was just like throwing a bunch of things at the wall. And I think a lot of them didn't really trying to think of, Incendiary was like the last thing I wrote for them. And people really love that. But like that's been done like twice, 2 or 3 times.
So were those plays, they weren't published when you weren't there, or you got them published after, or were they already published?
So Nerve happened in 2006. So I'd been at Juilliard for like a year, and then Nerve and Food for Fish were both happening that summer in New York, off Broadway. And then they were published like 6 months later or something like that.
Is that normal to be in school and have plays published?
I mean, there's nothing. I don't know.
That's good.
I mean, in some ways,
that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, no, I mean, in some ways, it's just like, some people are having off-Broadway productions while they're at Juilliard sometimes. Like that's like a normal-ish thing that happens. So in some ways, like sometimes much fancier things happen than that. Yeah. It was it's kind of an amazing summer to have 2 plays like 6 weeks apart.
Yeah.
Like both happen.
I
and
know.
then DPS picked them both up.
Yeah.
Which was kind of awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Are you still in touch with Christopher Durang at all?
Yeah. And Marcia.
Nice.
Yeah. Although I haven't talked to Marcia in a while.
Amazing. That's really cool. So out of all of your plays, what was the one which one do you think, which one, the first one you wrote ever was Nerve? Is that
no.
Out of the published ones?
No. There was one called Deflowering Waldo that I written when I was like 24, I think.
Oh wow.
Maybe 23. And I got that. My agent at the time was really good with getting things published, and she just sent it to the publisher, and they liked it, and they were like, "Yeah, we'll publish this."
Amazing.
Yeah, it was really cool, and it had been done like once or something, and there were supposedly 2 productions happening, and I think one fell through, but like they still published it, and they were like, "Great, we like this," and it's another one of those plays that's like an hour long. It's pretty wacky. It's very Chris Durang, honestly. It's very like wanting to be that.
Which one of your plays, I always ask of all of the players that come on, which one of your plays was the one that kind of gave your career that jolt, the one that became, pretty successful and got you known and kind of jump-started your career?
I mean, it's tricky because I feel like there are, like when I came out of Juilliard, like Incendiary had all these fancy readings. And then nobody did it. Like really cool, like amazing readings, like Labyrinth
readings?
and South
Nice.
Coast Rep, and like it was like, and everyone was like, they're gonna do it, and then like
was Hoffman involved during that time?
He was sitting in the audience, and I talked to him for a minute or 2 afterwards.
Oh, nice.
He asked like, "Hey, can we put fire on stage?" He was asking someone like, "Is that a thing?" Like he wanted like actual fire. I remember.
Yeah.
But then they never did it. So
yeah. Interesting.
But I would say that like Kodachrome for me is like the one that's being done the most right now, and that was like kind of my biggest production, like in terms of like it was a Lord production, and it was, I mean. Oddly, like I got less press from that than I did from like having a play off Broadway, which I still don't really understand that, but I mean, I guess that's what it is. But like so many schools do it, so many little theaters do it, so many theaters have done it.
Yeah.
So it's really like out there in a way that I think my other plays aren't. Marian, I have this play called Marian. That's a Robin Hood play that's being done a lot too right now. So
Nice.
So that like the 2 of them are both being done like kind of
let's talk about Kodachrome a little bit. It's an incredible play.
Oh, thanks.
I know it's being done. Is it? Are they preparing to do it? Because I saw online that they're doing a production of it.
Oh, there's so many productions of it happening.
Already running right now.
I mean, like little like, but like I'm trying to think like when's the next.
I saw something online. I
Big-ish.
think was it here in New York or
It has never been done. Well, it's like I think like some high schools or colleges around here are doing it, but like it hasn't been done in New York, and it's kind of not really like New York likes a play that's like a little edgy.
Yeah,
this play isn't edgy.
Yeah, it is a very sweet play though. I mean, I'm fascinated to hear as what gave you the idea to have the photographer kind of as the narrator of the play? Why a photographer? What's the meaning behind that? Why did you pick that?
Oh man, I mean, I wrote this play a long time ago.
You're like,
at this point, it's like it's like maybe 8 years ago. It's probably more than that. Yeah, no, I was really interested in the idea of like taking a photo and then having it projected. And I thought that was a really cool thing that could actually happen. And it's trickier than I thought it was, but like people totally do it sometimes.
Yeah.
And then we did it in the original production too.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I like kind of the idea of like recording reality and then you like, you learn that it's different than you think it is in the play. And it was just really
what I got from it was interesting that it was a photographer, is that seeing things through the same situation can happen and people can see it through different lenses.
Yeah.
And that was fascinating for me. It's like, you can see it this way, but it can also be seen this way.
Totally.
And I just thought that was really cool. The fact that it was, the photographer. I also liked breaking the fourth wall. I love it when it's done right, and I think it's written really well. When she talks about being dead or whatever it is. That's a really cool moment, because you don't know until the scene is with her husband, and you're like, oh my God, what the hell's going on? That's crazy. So it's a really cool moment in the play where. And then also the guy at the graveyard can see her.
Yeah.
Why was he the only one that was able to see her? I don't remember.
Yeah, like until the very end.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was there a reason why you? Because he works at the cemetery.
He's just always been able to see ghosts.
Okay, cool.
I mean, in college I knew someone like this who was like, oh yeah, I see ghosts. Like.
Just very casual.
Like, just, like sometimes,
I see ghosts.
And he was also like, like some of them, like if they're a little grayer, like a little darker, then I try to kind of stay away from those ghosts. But like mostly they're like fine. And I found this completely fascinating, completely forgot about it. And then, but also like, still sort of, I mean, I guess I remember it now. I'm thinking about it right now. Yeah. So,
any inspiration for the name from the song? I think isn't there a Paul Simon song?
So I didn't like the original title, and the publisher didn't like the original title, and they were like, and so we came up, we were like workshopping a bunch of different titles, and Kodachrome is the one that we landed on, but I was like, it's not, I mean, it's not, like there are reasons not to do this, and one of them is the song. Yeah. I mean, I love that song, and I love Paul Simon. Yeah. I mean, if you look in the beginning of Nerve, like there's a Paul Simon quote at the beginning of Nerve too, but it was just it's just the best title we could come up with, honestly. Yeah.
It's funny because Paul Simon was he had the title of his song was something else too.
Oh, really?
He was having trouble naming the song. And then they're like, and he was like, Kodachrome just sounds great.
It does sound great.
But it does refer to film, right? It's the
But like it also refers to a different era than like this takes place in. Also, it became really clear when high school started doing it that high school kids have no idea what that is and have never seen the word before, and like I mean, I think the the producer in Oregon where we did it, I think they were excited about it because they felt like it was a title that I think their older audience members would like, but now it's just being done at high schools. And colleges and small theaters, but mostly high schools. And it's like, I think it's going to have like its 90th production this year, and hopefully I'll hit like 100 like sometime next year.
Wow,
so
that's amazing.
So which is a first for me. So I'm really excited about like having that 100th production of something.
How many total plays do you have published? Because I know it's a lot.
I think it's 24 right now.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's and over what period of time did you write 24 of them?
I mean, I've written a lot more than 24 plays. Oh, like a lot more. Yeah. Like, I don't know how many, 60 something.
Wow.
But like, so like Deflowering Waldo was probably the first one, which was written in like 2000 maybe. And then, I'm having like one that I wrote like last year was just published or something.
Nice.
So it's like, it's over, over like 20 something years.
Where do your ideas come from? Because they're all quite unique.
Yeah, I mean, I just get interested in stuff and just start. Well, I think if you talk to a lot of playwrights, this is kind of the way they do it. I think I just write more plays than a lot of playwrights do. But basically, you just have like a lot of things that you're interested in, a lot of ideas. And you're like, oh, someday I want to write a play about that, and someday I'm interested in that. And then, like, you just kind of figure out like what are the two ideas, or like what does this play go with this play, or like what are the do I know enough about this world, or do I know enough about these characters, or do I know enough about this thing that I want to write about that I can write this yet? And whatever thing I'm most excited about, that becomes like the next thing that I write. But like, I mean, there are, just notebooks full of like things that I want to write someday that I have like, scenes about this, and like, oh, I kind of want to write this. And, like Incendiary was all about like, oh, I wanted to write a noir thing that also would be like fun for these like Juilliard kids to do. So yeah, it's just like, I mean, like I've never written a murder mystery, and that's like on my list of like, I want to do that someday. Like one of the things I want to do. But like have to figure out how to do that because I've never done that before, for example.
Awesome.
So, but like there are lots of like, I really am interested in this character, but I don't know how to quite write it. Like it's like all different kinds of things.
Incredible. Well, one of my favorite plays of yours is this one, Nerve.
Oh, thanks.
I love it. It's a wonderful two-hander if people are watching and you want an incredible two-hander to do. It's really, really amazing about a very awkward first date.
Yeah.
Between two people that are deeply, there is
some problems.
It's funny, but they have some very deep-rooted issues that I think
they have some problems.
They have some problems. Yeah, where have you ever had a date like that or something like that? Or
I mean, it's like comedic.
Yes,
but like sort of autobiographical in that like I went on some, there was a period in my life in which I was going on some internet dates.
Okay.
Back when we called them internet dates.
Internet dates, yeah.
Yeah, like it was
For
like
the
there was a website. It was like an online magazine or something called Nerve.
Okay.
And also
I didn't know
Time
that.
Out. Time Out was they like cross posted so there was posted both on Time Out and on Nerve. But so so like people who went to see this would know that because this was 2006 and we were,
So Nerve
people would have heard of Nerve back then.
So what would the post be in Nerve that people would see?
It's like I feel like I don't know what the apps are because it's been like 20 years. But like kind of similar to that in some ways. It's like you kind of like you have a little thing about yourself and a photo, and people like look at them and like contact you if they want to meet up, kind of thing.
And so you put your number in like your number with
your like email.
Oh, your email.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And so it was like a newspaper?
Online.
Oh, it was online. Okay, it was
but
online.
Like yes, also in newspapers.
Got it,
but
got it.
I think that I don't know if people how many of them were actually on and like Craigslist and like missed connections on Craigslist and it was like that era.
Got it.
Where kind of the infancy of online dating.
Got it. Yeah. So you went on a series of.
So I went on some
bad dates.
I went on some dates.
Yeah. And that's what inspired Nerve.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Really, really funny play. There was some actually, was it this play or no, it was another one. I wanted to ask you. Oh yeah, the Paul Simon quote.
Yeah.
I'll read it. Ask somebody to love you takes a lot of nerve. Ask somebody to love you, you got a lot of nerve.
Yeah. Do you know that song? It's a great song.
What song is that from?
No idea right now. I mean, I can hear it in my head, but like.
That's amazing. Well, I wanted to ask you a lot about Rare Birds. I just finished reading this today. It was really cool. It deals with, obviously, a topic that I would say is even more probably relevant today than ever, which is, school bullying and a lot of things, violence in school and all sorts of stuff. I was bullied in high school mercilessly.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. Suffered a lot of bullying when I first, because I went from the Middle East to Canada, and it was like a really big culture shock.
Yeah.
And I was very different, and I was very small, just like the character in this book.
Oh, and me. Yeah.
I was I was in the 10th grade, but everybody thought I was in the 8th grade. I was just very short. I didn't hit my growth spurt till like the 12th grade.
I still haven't hit mine.
But so I related a lot to everything that happened in this play. But it's a wonderfully sweet play. I wanted to ask: is this also kind of autobiographical? Were you bullied in school in some sort of way?
I wasn't. I don't think I was bullied a lot in school, but I definitely felt like I didn't belong there. I definitely felt different, and like it wasn't really my people. And that's not to say, I mean, I do have like a few friends from high school that I'm in touch with, but I just felt like, oh, this isn't like nobody gets me. I don't know what I'm doing here, kind of thing. And so for me, it's like a play about being like the weird kid, being like the kid who doesn't quite get it, the kid. Yeah. And so I was very interested in writing like that. I mean, for me, you know, for the kid in this, it's like he's fascinated by birds, but it's like whatever you're into. Like for me, it was like theater, which I think, you know, became the thing that helped me a lot. But like at the time, you know, it's fine. It's just a thing I did.
You weren't into birds? I was going to ask you that.
No, I'm more into birds now. Like they're amazing, and they're like everywhere near where I live. Like there's just but I think that's just like middle-aged man thing of like middle-aged person thing. Yeah. Of like, oh, birds. I suddenly noticed birds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. There's a person right at the top that you thank. I was just very curious about that. I think it was in this play. Is it there's a name in here, Kristen or something?
My wife, Kristen Palmer.
It says thank you to Kristen somewhere, I think.
I don't know.
I don't remember which play it was in, but it was maybe that's your wife. Oh yeah.
My wife's Kristen Palmer, who's also a playwright.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I thank her as frequently as possible.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. But anyway, that's interesting. That's what I was wondering. Amazing. So in the in Rare Birds, he doesn't end up. The parents have a pretty unique relationship with the kid. They are. The mom is obviously but that theme, the missing father theme kind of shows up a few times in your plays, in different plays. Just curious to know. I wasn't sure if that was.
I mean, that's not really autobiographical for me. You know, I think I'm kind of for both my wife and my mother. They lost their dad when they were like in their teens or like a little bit older. I don't know. I think for both, like it really, like hit something inside me. Just thinking about like losing your father at that young age. No. And
what, anybody else in your family, like, are anybody else like in the creative world or?
No.
I get that a lot.
So it's hard. It's you know, our son is, you know, we're both playwrights and we're both theater people, and my wife also teaches and she directs sometimes and stuff. And so there's a lot of games that are just sort of theater games in our house, like just casual theater games. And our kid, like he's already like, let's write a play. He's already like, he's acting, and he's just like, I don't know if he's going to be a theater kid, but he's a theater kid.
He's got all the markings.
And like the advantage of like him like being surrounded by this, like I feel like I wish I had something like that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of, I mean, if, you know,
Well, you never know.
If it's a good life.
Yeah, it could have been the other way. I don't have
Yeah.
anybody. Nobody in my family is
Yeah.
is in the creative space either. It was actually kind of weird, like for me doing it as even being Middle Eastern. It's like,
Oh, okay.
well, in Middle Eastern culture, there's like your parents think there's like two professions, you know, a doctor, a lawyer, and
Right.
but
Right.
not my parents. My parents have actually been very, very supportive,
That's great.
Which is yeah, it's been wonderful. Pretty Theft.
Oh, Pretty Theft.
Pretty Theft.
Oh man.
Incredible play. Was this one done a lot?
I wouldn't say a lot. No. Not at all.
It is one a lot of people talk about though when we bring up your name.
The monologues are done constantly.
Yes.
The monologues are done so much that people have posted about how you need to stop doing that monologue. Like there's like last year, like someone who was it has reached England.
Yeah.
Because there's someone in England who was doing auditioning a lot of acting students in lots of different programs, and posted, here are the plays that you should stop doing monologues from, and I recognized like one or two of the plays, and the rest were like all English plays that I'd never heard of. Them like, oh, I should find out what these plays are, but I like immediately reposted and was, I guess
it was your plays that they had mentioned.
Yeah, Pretty Theft was. They were like, don't do this. Backstage also posted at one point like, stop doing this place. This monologue's being done too much.
Stop doing Adam's monologues, all right? Find something else to do. God damn it!
Like someone someone had emailed me at one point and was like, our theater teacher said no more Adam Szymkowicz monologues in class because too many of us are doing it. Which I'm like, I don't encourage that. People should continue to do my monologues, but like I think it's pretty funny. Honestly.
I see the Ian monologue because we have your monologues on our site a lot.
Oh, Ian from Mercy.
Ian from Mercy.
Yeah,
we get so many hits on our site. That's because cool. we have the monologue on our site. Yeah. And then I mean, Google is just filled. Sorry, not Google. YouTube is filled with videos
I know.
of people who have recorded your monologue. It's just like there may be 100 videos of people doing Orville from is a huge one. Yeah, that one's from
and the Rare Birds. They do the one from Rare Birds too. The Evan monologue from Rare Birds. People like that.
Yeah.
But Pretty Theft was like the first one in which this started happening. And this play, was published in like 2009 or something. And
that's crazy.
It, like a few years, let's say, I don't know, 4 or 5 years after it was published, like suddenly we were selling a bunch of copies. And it was like kind of word of mouth, and suddenly and it kind of hasn't stopped. It's just, I still, like, I think that play is probably still the bestseller of like, like all my plays. Amazing. Not done that much, but like it's got a bunch of monologues in it that people really like to do, and that's why.
I've always been I've always been curious over the years of being in school and working on plays for as long as I have been, and as long as all actors are when they're training. You read a lot of plays and you work on a lot of plays. The monologues are some of those moments that kind of almost attract you to and it's because usually in a play, those monologues are what what describes the character. Really, the essence of that character is, or what the character is going through is really in those monologues or whatever it may be. And so I was always curious to know, when you're writing a play, is it ever in your mind, all right, I'm gonna write a fantastic monologue for this character, and this monologue is gonna be great, or whatever it is, because they are important parts in plays. Like when Hamlet does To Be or Not to Be, or whatever it may be. So there's all these these moments in these plays that are signature moments for these really big characters in theater, whatever, like in Streetcar Named Desire or whatever it is. There's all these moments that there is. Do you ever think, this is going to be the signature moment, or do you just write it, and if it happens organically, it happens organically?
Do you know? I have a couple different answers for this.
Okay.
One is I recently realized that I have like only one play that doesn't have a monologue in it. Almost all my plays have monologues in them. Some have multiple monologues. Some have like one. I think where it comes from is when I was studying at Columbia, Kelly Stewart, one of my teachers, she would sometimes be like, okay, stop. We were writing in class and she'd be like, stop. Okay, now write a monologue. And this kind of became part of my writing process. I think I internalized that and like kind of wrote my plays that way. I don't know. I mean, some, you know, like in Kodachrome, like it's, you know, someone talking to a gravestone. It's like her talking to the audience. It's like there's a lot of like specific things that are happening that like it kind of needs to be a monologue. But I don't know. I just I think I just like started to like monologues and then started to be like, oh, this is kind of a fun thing for us to get to know this person. Yeah. And also like, especially like if we can keep the drama happening while this is happening, like then like it helps us instead of like takes us out of it, which is what happens sometimes with monologues when the monologue is not keeping things going. Yeah. I have a book of monologues that came out recently. Oh,
what's it called?
It's called Small Explosions. And
Small Explosions.
All like for...
We'll put a link in it. A link at the bottom.
During the pandemic, I for like a few months, I was just like, you know what? I don't know what I'm going to do. I think I'm just going to like write a monologue. And then most days I would like write a monologue. And so then there's this book, I wrote like 60 and then I tried to get them published. And Applause liked it and was like, yes, but can you write like 30 more? And I'm like, yeah, okay, all right. So there's like 90, it's like a little more than 90. I'm not sure the exact number, but there's like 90 monologues and pretty much anyone can do any of them. Which I'm kind of, instead of like being like, oh, I have so many monologues, I hope I don't get oversaturated. I'm just like leaning into it. I'm just being like, let's completely oversaturate the market. Yeah. But also here are a bunch of new ones that you don't have to do Pretty Theft because
stop doing Pretty Theft.
Here are 90 new ones that you could do. Yeah. I mean, they're not from plays, and some people need ones that are from plays. So it's also kind of shooting myself in the foot because like, they're not going to buy the play because of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, do you ever, has an idea for a play ever spun out of a monologue? Like written a monologue first and then be like, you know what? Let me expand on this character and maybe some, does that ever happen? I'm just always fascinated by the process, all the different ways a story can come about.
I don't think that's ever happened to me. I mean, sometimes I have written like a long time ago, not recently, but I've written like a 10-minute play and then been like, oh, that's interesting. Maybe I can write, like maybe I like that world and want to play in it for a longer period of time. And so there have been like 10-minute plays that have become like a version of a version of the 10-minute play becomes like a version of a full-length play. But I don't think I've ever had something developed for a monologue, as far as I can remember.
Have you written any screenplays? Any interest in that? Or
yeah. You know, it's a lot harder for me. But there are a couple that I've written that I like. Like after writing, you know, it's like every few years, like I'd like try to write a screenplay, like try to write a pilot or something. And I have a new one that I think is good, and I have a new manager who is like, yes. So, you know, when this strike's over, maybe it'll go out into the world.
And what are the differences between writing a play and let's per se writing a screenplay or a pilot? Do you take the same approach?
Well, sometimes not many things have to happen in a play, and you can't have screenplays or pilots in which not much happens. At least not the kind I'm writing. Like I guess like sitcoms, sometimes not a lot of things happen in a sitcom. But yeah, you just have to have more plot. There's also just scenes are so much shorter. And I write a lot of my plays have very short scenes, but scenes are so much shorter. And so you have to put things across like much quicker. So it's really a condensing down of something that you could like have like a 5-minute scene, like you're really condensing it down to like a 2-minute scene, and trying to have the same thing happen. And it's hard, but it's also hard for me because like basically I'm like, okay, people on stage, I just give you a name and I don't know, they're in the dentist's office. That's it.
Yeah.
Like even like, but when you're in a screenplay, you have to like, who are these people? You have to describe them, and like it's just a lot more of like work of stuff that I haven't thought about that I need to think about now, and then not write too much of that, but also write enough of it so that it feels like the kind of people who read those feel like, oh yeah, this is actually a screenplay.
Do you outline anything first before you write, like, whether it be a play or a screenplay? Do you actually write like?
Yeah,
I was taught to write from a very close friend of mine who writes a lot of screenplays, scene by scene, just an outline of this scene, this happens, this scene, this happens, this scene. Do you do something like that, or do you just sit down and write?
I don't just sit down and write. I want to know what happens at the end, and I want to know most of the middle. Marcia Norman has 5 questions, and I make sure that I've answered the 5 questions before I start writing.
Oh, can we get the 5 questions?
Oh yeah, 5 questions are amazing, and I tell everybody about them as much as possible. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So it's this play is about blank. It starts when blank. It ends when blank. The main character wants blank, but blank. What am I forgetting? Oh, it takes place in blank. Might be a different order of those 5, but like those 5 things of like, okay, I know what the container of the play is. I know when it starts. I also have a good ending for it.
That's
like
amazing.
I know like it's not supposed to be over here. It's not supposed to be over here. Like it's like here is what has to be in the play, and like has to be the beginning. This has to be the end. This play is about something. Like whatever arc I'm starting with at the beginning, like that's where I'm getting to at the end. Yeah. And like the main character has to want something, and there has to be a reason why like they can't have what they want, kind of thing. And sometimes if I'm struggling with a play, I'll be like, well, wait, did I do those 5 things? And I'll go back and be like, oh, okay, no, I don't know what this play's about. Like, what am I trying to write about? Like, what is this play about? Or like, I don't know when it ends, or I don't know, am I starting it at the right place? So like this is the thing that I do that helps me a lot, that I learned.
The foundation of it, basically, of what to build. And that's why it's really good to have really great teachers, because something simple like that can help you out. Even when you're an advanced writer, like, somebody that writes so many plays, that you just go back to it and you're like, back to the basics, and I can really learn a lot from just answering those 5 questions.
I mean, I have a very basic outline usually, but like the most important things are where's it start and where's it end, and if there are like multiple storylines, like what are the like points of this kind of thing. So like there's a play that I'm trying to write now, and like I don't know enough of it to start writing it, and I really want to start writing it, but I gotta figure it out a little bit more before I start writing it, and then it will just flow. Like I can write it much quicker if I just like know what's going on, but I'm very impatient and I just want to write it.
Yeah. What kind of advice do you give to people who are playwrights just starting out and are really trying to write great plays and get them made? What kind of advice do you think would help them out?
Oh, there's so much advice. One thing is, so I have this blog. Are we going to talk about that later?
Yes.
You said
yes.
Okay, all right. But one of the things that's important about it is I interviewed over 1,100 playwrights. Basically, I just sent them email questions and they sent them back and I posted them. Yeah. Like easy. Kind of. It takes a long time to do 1,100 of those, but like over, doing like 100 a year for like 8 years or something. But I always ask, like, what advice do you have for playwrights starting out? And a lot of them are really similar. A lot of but so much good advice from people who aren't just me. So I would tell people, go look at that.
Yes.
I was like, at one point I was like, oh, I could just make a book of this. And then I realized like, even just this, like it's like an amazingly long book to have all this. I would say read a lot of plays. I would say, especially early on, find a way to put your plays up. Like if you're in college, like
that's a good one.
Find an empty room, like figure out a way in which you can.
What's the reasoning for that though? I think I know
because
why.
Because that's how you learn. That's how you learn like what works and what doesn't work is getting in front of an audience. And I mean, you will have like a college audience, and so that's a very different audience than like, you know, the older people like in the theater. But like what they, you know, like you'll have people who can watch it, who will respond to it, and you'll learn what's working, what isn't working, and you'll feel it in the room of like is this play working now or not. So, what else? Yeah, I mean, I think reading a lot of plays, seeing a lot of plays, getting your plays up on their feet, hearing your plays out loud in front of people, even if you can't get it on its feet, or before you get it on its feet, like read it out loud. Try to hear what it is, hear the pacing of it. When is it too slow? When is it too fast? When am I under-explaining? When am I over-explaining? Like is it what I think it is, or is it actually something other than what I think it is when I actually hear it out loud? Yeah. And sometimes, especially like for young playwrights, it might be hard to hear it the first time. You might have to hear it a couple of times. I think those are the main things. There's so much.
Yeah. Well, I want to what's the website where you know the web address for your blog where you interview all of the playwrights?
Yeah, I mean I can give it to you, but basically I'll put it if you type in my name, it'll be like the first or second thing that's
so up. Let's talk about that a little bit. You have interviewed over 1,000 playwrights.
Over 1,100.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty amazing. I went on the site and it's just like, where did you find that? I mean, I didn't even know that there were that many playwrights around.
Oh, there are so many more.
It's pretty.
There's at least 10,000. There's probably more than 10,000 at this point.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. Yeah, so I urge everybody to go to the website and check out all of the different interviews. It's probably a treasure trove of information. The interviews are done like an editorial, kind of like they're in question and answer form, right?
Yeah.
On the page.
Yeah.
Which is really, really cool because you can read the questions and then and read the answers, and there's information about all the playwrights on there as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I was like, I tell them like you can ignore questions, you can add your own questions, you can do whatever you want. So occasionally they'll add a question that I would never ask in a way that I would never ask, kind of just messing with me. But like overall, like there's some amazing people on there who agreed to do this.
Why did you want to start doing that?
I mean, I think part of it is for like basically I was just like, I think playwrights are amazing and I think everyone should know it.
Yeah.
And
it's
so
kind of like
you should all just like
you had like the podcast idea before the podcast almost. You're like interviewing all these people. Like it's like way before people were interviewing playwrights.
It was way before podcasts.
Yeah.
And I noticed like a lot of people do like so many people do what I did now than when I started. Like a lot of people do question and answers for like everything. I started doing it because I was getting interviewed when I was in town for Pretty Theft, and I really loved being interviewed. And I was like, this is really fun. Maybe I'll turn my blog into like an interview, situation, and just like interview like all my friends. And I was like, well, I know a lot of playwrights. I love playwrights. I'll just start interviewing like everyone I know. Amazing. And like almost all of them were like, yeah, totally, I'll do that. Great, let's do that.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, I saw on your Instagram that yesterday or today was your last day. Let's tell everybody you teach.
I don't teach. I'm the Playwrights program manager.
Playwrights program
for
manager.
one more day
at Juilliard.
At Juilliard.
Yeah.
In which I support the playwriting program and read all the admission scripts and help narrow it down. Well, narrow it down from like 200 or 300 to like 10. Which I give to the playwrights and then the professors, and then they decide like who they want. So I've been doing that for like 8 years now.
Oh, nice.
And I have just stopped doing it. Well, I will have stopped doing it tomorrow.
Tomorrow's your last
Tomorrow's
day?
my last day.
Ooh, so
Yeah.
a long 8-year journey. How does it feel to? Why are you?
I think you need to ask me tomorrow. I don't know. Like, my wife got a really cool job, and
okay.
I was just kind of burnt out. Like, it's a hard job, and like a lot of responsibility, and I don't want that power anymore, and I don't want that. Yeah.
Is it the same program that you were in? So now you're overlooking who gets into that same program?
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, it's totally amazing.
Yeah.
And now I'm done with that.
And so you just decided I'm gonna move on and do something else.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna write more plays, and maybe if the strike's over, do something else. Parenting, it's like parenting and playwriting.
Yeah.
My wife has a cool job, and so she'll get the health insurance for us. And,
Nice.
Yeah, and like I'm having, like, money wise, I think I'm having the best playwriting year I've ever had.
That's always great.
So I mean, we'll see. Like, it's not quite a living, but hopefully it's almost a living.
Yeah.
So that's, with what she's making, it should be fine.
Yeah, that's nice. Well, what plays, do you have anything in the pipeline, any of your plays that are going to be playing anywhere that people should?
Yes. Well, a play that is happening, I mean, I have some like, maybe this is going to happen. But I know that I have this play, Christmas Tree Farm, that's going on in Hoboken at Miles Square Theater around Christmas.
Okay.
Which I'm pretty excited about. And what else?
Kodachrome? I think I saw. Oh, no.
I mean, a bunch of. I think we'll see what it is at the end of the year, but I think probably like somewhere around 100 productions overall.
Wow.
So it's like all different plays, and like some play like once, or in like some plays like 20, 30 times.
Yeah. Like
Marian
in Turkey.
and Kodachrome are getting done a bunch, and in Turkey.
In Turkey, yeah.
In Turkey.
You're playing
Clown Bar is being done in Turkey, which
Clown Bar
is
has
kind of
been done
awesome. And Clown Bar 2 is now going to be done in Turkey too.
Yeah, and it's been going for a couple of years now.
Yeah. It's been 3 years of them doing it on and off. They do this thing. They'll basically do like one performance a month, or like 2 performances a month, and then they'll just keep doing it.
It's incredible.
Yeah, no, the photos and the videos they post are amazing. So it's really cool to be like, okay, they really like it, and like Clown Bar is such a weird play in so many ways. But when I realized, like people actually really like this, like I was hoping like that what's happening in Turkey would be happening in different cities here in the U.S., and that didn't happen. I mean, people are doing it more than once, and it's starting to happen now, I think. In Vegas, it's been done a few times, though. But besides Majestic Rep in Vegas, who did Clown Bar 2 and did Clown Bar like multiple times, like there haven't been a lot of like doing that play again. Like I wrote Clown Bar 2 because I was like, I got an idea. Like maybe this will get people to do Clown Bar again. Because there were a bunch of companies for which it was like a big hit, and people were really excited about it. And people put on clown noses when they go in, and it's like a fun like party kind of atmosphere, and it's immersive without like involving them.
Yeah.
So
why do you think the people in the people in Turkey took such a? What do you think they relate to about it so much?
I don't know. It's also like, who knows, like if the sense of humor carries over.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's about clown mobsters, so I don't know what the mobster situation is in Turkey, or if that like makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's like the underground clown crime world.
Huh,
and this is a very different play from Kodachrome, or there's a very different play from Pretty Theft. And I think it's weird to be a playwright who writes plays that are different from each other in such a way, because I think most actors or theater people, like, they read like one play of yours, and that's and they assume like, that's the kind of playwright you are.
Yeah.
but the person who thinks I'm the pretty theft playwright is very different from the person who thinks I'm like the nerve playwright, who's very different from the person who thinks I'm the clown bar playwright. And the Kodachrome is like the one that's being done the most, and that's basically like a super sweet, like our town kind of play. So,
and Mercy is very different.
Mercy's very different.
I mean, Mercy is a gut wrenching.
It's pretty intense. Pretty intense play.
Has that ever been done?
It's only been done once so far. You know, someone keeps talking about doing it in New York, and then the pandemic happened. And maybe it'll happen. I don't know. But yeah, it's
someone should do it. It's such a great play. If you're watching, do Mercy, please.
Thanks.
It is something about Mercy reminded me of, I don't know why, but I mean it's not the same. But there's a play called Brilliant Traces by Cindy Lou Johnson.
Yeah.
I mean, they're very, very different plays. But there's something.
I read that in college. Like that was like one of the first plays when I was like, I think I want to be a playwright.
Yeah, because there's something. I worked on it in class, and it was very, very difficult. It's a farce, first of all, but it's about like this, you know, really, really like the father loses his daughter and then blames himself and stuff like that. But when I was, when I was reading Mercy, it almost kind of felt a little same, but kind of the opposite. Because the wife passes, not the child or whatever it was, but it was about a man dealing with that sort of loss or whatever it was. But it's a very beautiful play. Any new plays that you're writing that you're excited about, that you think will be published and that you're just excited about?
I mean, I don't know when. The thing about new plays is you never know when they're going to get published because they have to have that first productions most of the time.
Is that how it works? It has to get produced and then it can get published?
Usually. I mean, unless it's for high schools sometimes, like you can bypass that a little bit, but it's always helpful to like see it on its feet to know like if you mess something up, like there's some adjustments that had to be made.
What is that? So I actually don't know how that works. So when you write a play, right, and you want to get it published, right, you have to go to a publisher, right? Or is there just, what is it, just dramatist and like a...
I have so many publishers.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I think you only have two right there, but like I have so many publishers.
Yeah, Sam French and dramatist,
Yeah. Basically, you have a production of it, and hopefully it went well, and maybe you have some pull quotes from
reviews and stuff like that.
Yeah, and so you have like, this play is good, and so you have something to put on the back. And so then you send it to.
Play is good. Hopefully it's better than.
Hopefully someone will say this play is good. So then you send it to the publisher with your pull quotes and like you might send it to a few publishers at once. And depending if like if it's like an off-Broadway production, probably like someone's going to publish it. And it's possible that like there'll be a bidding war of some type if like people are really excited about it.
Got it.
I've never really been in that position. I think I had someone offer more for like like Concord offered more for Pretty Theft. There's Samuel. They're Concord now. There's Samuel French at the time. They offered more, and then DPS was like, no. That was a long time ago. But like I wouldn't have a relationship with Concord if I hadn't gone with them over DPS. And DPS was pissed for a while. But like it's all completely different people over there now, so that's water under the bridge.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Well, I am looking forward to any of your new plays. As I was telling you before we started the show, I love Nerve, and I'm going to see if I can if I can somehow get my friend to do this with me. It's a really, really amazing play. If anybody out there is looking for a great two-hander, Nerve is amazing. Thank you so much, Adam, man. I really, really appreciate you coming. It was wonderful. Thanks for giving us your time. And
for sure.
Hopefully I'll be working on your play soon.
Great.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Thanks a lot.